fucking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
Hi, and welcome back to Hi Lazaretto. You're here with your hosts, the gentlemen.
Back once again, Papa Smoke in the building.
And how are you doing, Papa Smoke? How's today been?
It's been a bit of a lazy one. I feel a bit underproductive, but we've got a few things done.
Yeah, well, we've cleaned the final part of the house is now clean. We've cleaned the garden.
I'm looking forward to sitting out there. I think a day outside's going to do us the world of good. Even the fact I'm confined into a yard, but
absolutely,
a day just outside in some air into my lungs. So
I would definitely say if anyone's listening, try and get some time outside, even if it's in your back door. I think it's quite important. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I made a cornflake tart today.
Ooh, and it was lovely.
It was lovely, wasn't it? And I think I found out on Facebook a lot of people don't actually know what cornflake tart is. And that
boggled my mind because it was the favourite dinner lady dessert.
You think the primary school in England, you think cornflake cake.
Cornflake cake or the sponge cake with a little bit of icing on?
On the top, yeah.
Just on the top, the little sugar.
Do you know, because you'd always get custard, and on a good day you would get pink custard.
Oh, right? That was the best kind.
They're the best kind of days. Pink custard, but did you ever have, I don't even know how to pronounce it, is it semolina?
What, the ricey, custardy? It's like an Angel Delight kind of vibe, innit?
I thought it was always like rice pudding without the rice.
Kind of, yeah, but he sometimes made chocolate semolina and then it kind of was like an Angel Delight kind of vibe.
That's true. I mean, I am a big fan of Angel Delight. I've not had an Angel Delight in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely. Anyways, swiftly moving on.
I was going to say, this will turn into a food podcast, not a film podcast. I'd sit here all day, probably more than a good film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is our 5th podcast now.
Yeah.
5. Well done. We're doing good.
Yes, lad.
Absolutely. And we've watched The Cable Guy, which thus far, out of all the films we've watched, this one was definitely an interesting one. It wasn't one that we expected to be on the list. But directed by Ben Stiller. Yeah.
Obviously, renowned actor himself, really. Got some good films, Ben Stiller, I think.
Quite a big... He is a household name in many ways, isn't he? I mean, you got any favourite Ben Stiller performances?
Ooh, I love Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers. I didn't like the last one, I can't remember what it was called. Was that Little Fockers?
Yeah.
That was a bit of a sellout, but the original two was a great double pairing.
Absolutely. Of a film. My guilty pleasure is Dodgeball.
Dodgeball. White gunman coming at you.
It's
what a film that is. That is the ultimate Sunday chill out.
Yeah.
Get a load of greasy food and watch a funny film.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can't beat Dodgeball.
That film only has good vibes. It's like a sleepover film, isn't it? When you're younger and you slept over your mate's house who's watched Dodgeball. But Ben Stiller is also a director. And I've done this for a little while now, but the film that I'd seen, which is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Have you seen that?
Also a cracking film, yes.
It is regarded, for me, it is actually in my top 20 films of all time, Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely a big part of it to do with the emotional connection with it, which I think a lot of people our age understand, with the yearning to leave the coop and travel.
Do what they've always wanted
to
do.
If you're feeling really upset that airports are shut, don't watch that film.
Yes, not right now.
Not right now, because that'll make you feel 10 times worse. But that wasn't the first film he ever directed, which was shocking to me when I found out what films he did direct.
Yeah.
Because as well as The Cable Guy, which was his directorial debut. So once again, somehow we've managed to land on a debut.
Debut, yeah.
Another debut for a director. Yeah.
That is true. Every film, we've more or less done a debut.
Or at least at the beginning of their career.
Oh, yeah, or very early.
Now, he hasn't directed much else in between that. Well, after Secret Life of Walter Mitty and before, he did do Zoolander 1 and 2.
I mean, the first Zoolander I find hilarious.
Now, the second Zoolander, I specifically remember you and Tony taking us to see Zoolander 2.
Yeah,
I paid money to watch that film.
It's a bad film, isn't it? I mean, it's got its odd cheap laughs, but it just doesn't... I don't know.
It's so just out there and strange.
Yeah,
and that's something
it's
that
just a gag for a gag kind of film, and I don't like that. Sometimes
Yeah.
when they try too hard to just make like a cheap laugh.
I'm pretty sure it's actually in the top 10 worst comedy films in the last 10 years. With films like Movie 43, the Fred movie, and number one,
Jack and Jill.
Jack and Jill, yeah, number one, Jack and Jill.
What was that? What was he ever thinking doing that, Adam Sandler?
Of course, but again, we've also spoke about him. But yeah, so Ben Stiller, I love The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I don't like the Zoolanders. I think I like the first one more for nostalgia and being younger when I watched it. But I think if I got to watch it now, I wouldn't like it. And the second one was absolute garbage. So with that kind of scale, Ben Stiller's CV is a bit worrying to me. And I had watched The Cable Guy when I was quite young, and this was going to be like a fresh.
I hadn't watched it in a good while, and I think I enjoyed it more now watching it than I did when I watched it back then.
But because
I don't know. I was fully.
It is meant to be a comedy, but it's a very different kind of comedy. I mean, it's the total opposite to Zoolander. Zoolander is very in your face, and
this is
Cable
like
Guy
subtle.
is very peeled back, very subtle comedy, and a lot of that comedy, of course, lends to the characters in there. I mean, definitely first off, mention the fact that Ben Stiller's got a great little cameo in it.
He is. I mean, that film, I was surprised at how many cameos were in it. There's a lot of actors that have went on to do
Jack Black. I'm pretty sure that was one of Jack Black's first films as well.
Obviously, Matthew Broderick at the time, very good actor.
Well, that was what this says quite a lot. When we went to watch this film again, I think at the previous podcast I mentioned Ben Stiller in the terms of him acting in it, and although he does act in it, I completely forgot it was Matthew Broderick as the main lead, and that probably says quite a lot about Matthew Broderick. But at that point in time, he'd just done Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Exactly.
So he was up and coming to do some big films. Of course, by the end of the 90s, he ended up doing Godzilla and Inspector Gadget, and that kind of ruined his career a little bit.
Well, you've got to think as well, obviously the whole kind of question behind what we were thinking today is, obviously, when we read in our guide of essential 100 films that changed cinema, when we read up about The Cable Guy, the reason that this is in is you would kind of argue is a bad influence on cinema, because obviously Columbia Pictures handed Jim Carrey a check for $20 million to play the role that he played in the film, and it from some that at that time had never been even reckoned.
It was the highest an actor had ever been paid.
Yeah, exactly. It was just inconceivable to pay someone that kind of money, and from that day forward, it says that it went on to then break obviously the industry in that way. Like all the other actors were demanding more money because they then learned what Jim Carrey got paid for that role, which is weird to think. How did Ben Stiller, at such a debut director, get like such a budget that then obviously he's even hired even more bigger actors as well.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey, like he's hired Matthew Broderick. There's loads of cameos like Jack Black.
Yeah.
Even Owen Wilson for a small part. I know he was.
Oh, that was true. Yeah, he had a very small part in it.
David Cross. You've got Eric Roberts. Even like Janine Gruffalo. She played a small, tiny part as like a waitress.
Yeah.
And it's just there's quite a lot of Bob Odenkirk, who Better Call Saul.
Yeah. Wait, where was he in that? I didn't even.
He was just like a little friend of the group. Like of the family when he went over and played the nice guy over dinner and got the whole family on Matthew Broderick's like bad side, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But he was just like so many little.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, that does beg the question, and you could definitely arguably say that because of this, it has led to a lot of bad things. You know, certain actors, the likes of The Rock and Will Smith, will not work any less than like so many million.
Yeah.
And it's almost ridiculous at the end of the day. Like, of course they're celebrities, they're massive, figureheads, but there's kind of an element of there, especially when you've worked on a set, to kind of feel why that person's probably getting paid, 100,000 more than anyone else on that crew.
Yeah. And I bet there's a lot of crew that work harder than actors do. So
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, more involvement and
definitely not slamming an actor that's worth the price. To be fair,
no,
but again, it's definitely changed the way the monopoly works. in cinema, I think. And so this might be the first film that's influenced cinema for bad.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, if that's true to what it says in this guide, that it just then every other actor wouldn't even have thought of it until the first person did it. But which begs to differ. Who do you think approached who first? Do you reckon that it would have been the Jim Carrey saying I want more, or Columbia Pictures just going in with a ridiculous sum, trying to get him for the fact that beforehand he was on quite a roll before he did Cable Guy, if you think.
Yeah.
He had these Ace Venturas, Dumb and Dummers, The Mask, Ace Ventura, Batman Forever. He even played. I really liked him as the Riddler on that, to be honest.
Yeah, Jim Carrey's had a career in which, in the 90s, he was king. Absolute king. He was quite quiet in the noughties, but he had done some absolute crackers of films like Number 23 and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is one of my all-time favourite films. But then, of course, as we know, in the taughties, moving on, he was very quiet. He's had a lot of difficulty.
Well, he's a questionable character at the moment, and he's quite an out there, weird guy.
You always feel like, because I love him and I massively respect him.
I do,
but
you kind of forget who he was to what he is now.
Yes,
he's such a different guy. You could have thought they were two different.
Well, this is what's so strange, because when he got into this situation where he was quite philosophical and he kind of talked a lot about what fame had done bad to him, and he was very self-reflective, and of course a lot of like family issues, is that I admired what he had to say. What he said was very truthful, and I felt like I was really believing it. But then he's now done Sonic, and he's went back to the 90s Jim Carrey character.
Yeah.
And it's quite a strange one. A very strange choice of film to even begin to...
I feel bad for him in that aspect. Obviously, the palaver that film had of getting reanimated, pulled back.
Of course,
dates.
yeah.
I was kind of excited to see him in that role, because I thought, like you say, that it could have been a return of like a 1990s Jim Carrey, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, yeah. But he's had a very kind of fruitful career. What's your favourite? Do you have any favourite Jim Carrey?
Oh, I love The Mask.
Yeah, The Mask.
I love The Mask.
I love Liar Liar.
Liar Liar. The amount of times I've seen that in school, I always used to get caught out.
Yeah,
there
were the TV
and
the big fat TV.
That and Bruce Almighty must have watched a million times, but
that is true. Yeah,
I just never watch them now for that reason, because I've probably seen them 100 times.
Yeah, my favourite, obviously, of course, Jim Carrey's so widely known for his kind of ad-libbing, and although he's done some very bombastic and weird things in the past, it was one in which, in Liar Liar, when he's in the courtroom, and he's like got this paper and he like scrumples it up and then like lets go of it, and he's like, a goose. It's like the most shoddy looking goose you've ever seen, and he had the whole set in laughter, and
he's actually the king. I would say he's got to be the king ad-lib. A lot of his films, he just, even in this Cable Guy, he had a few moments where he just
totally ad-libbed it. Yeah, so let's talk about the Cable Guy as well.
Yeah,
the performance in that.
Even though we're trying to say that it's a bad influence on cinema,
mm-hmm.
I personally enjoy the film. Obviously, the reason behind it being a bad influence was this thing about wages.
Yeah.
So you can't really blame the film for that, I suppose. But I feel the film's a good film. I really enjoyed it, to be honest. Yeah,
it's got something there that's like an extra layer to the film. So it's not just a film about a creepy stalker. And a guy being stalked. There's like a thicker layer which is to do with what the influence of what television has on people.
Because right at the end, when obviously all the cable go off, you see that one that I think it's Kyle Gass. It picks up the book and looks at it and goes, "Ooh!" And it's like,
that bit was definitely more force of hand.
Yeah,
but it's even stuff like the beginning sequence is of a television and the static going in and out. And thus from that we then come to the character of Matthew Broderick. But before that, as it's flicking in between, it's actually giving you Easter eggs for the entire film. So all the names that he gives himself are all based off different characters that were on the beginning sequence, which I thought was really clever. I really enjoyed that.
I did not even notice that. Well played on that too.
I thought that element of it was really good. And of course, Jim Carrey, is Jim Carrey's character, the cable guy, he has this kind of delusion of the world, doesn't he?
His whole thing, obviously, you'd come to learn that it's because he was kind of raised by TV. That whole TV's another parent to the kid. You know what I mean? Because his mum was a bit of a...
Yeah.
That's interesting. Very interesting.
It's really interesting, especially with the way his character works, because of course he says 101 quotes of every film and TV out there, but I guess Jim Carrey's really good at doing that anyways. But there's this kind of element there that if you kind of look at like the staple of cinema, the kind of the generics and the stereotypes, the way he acts with Matthew Broderick as this very weirdly overly attached friend, that is how characters are made to be friends in movies. So his kind of idea of what friendship is all very warped.
It is because, his whole just reality's warped, isn't it? And like you say, that is how a friend gets portrayed. It's like an overly attached best buddy from the off kind of vibe, because in all films and stuff that they've got such a obviously small space of time to develop a character so quickly, like a friendship or a hatred or an enemy.
Well, that's it. And for me, the best part of the film was the fact that there was this undertone. I don't necessarily agree with where they've kind of let that undertone seep to the surface a little bit. So the Kyle Gass bit is a moment in which they kind of feed the audience that this is what it's kind of really about. But then I feel like it's focusing on the wrong thing. Not necessarily that, we should all be reading books rather than watching TV, or saying that TV is bad for you.
We'd be out of a podcast if that was
exactly.
So please don't take that advice.
But of course, I think what bits they should have put more prevalence on is Jim Carrey's character and the psyche. The psyche was very left for an audience interpretation. So I guess if you wanted to watch the film just because you've been told it's a comedy and you want a cheap laugh, it's not the perfect film for that, but it's a fantastic film for kind of in-depth analysis, I think, of the psyche of that character.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And also, even if... Yeah, I suppose you could watch it as both ways, you know what I mean? You could maybe watch it if you're just... Because I feel the first time I watched it, I watched it as just to pick your brain out 90s comedy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now when I've come and watched it for the purpose of this podcast, I've enjoyed it more because I've looked into it a bit more, and I've learnt all these things of like the psyche of the character and how you think how possibly he's become that character from, like you say, being raised by TV instead of a loving parent and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel I appreciate the film a bit more this time. Well, not even a bit more, quite a bit more.
Yeah.
And it's because of that.
That's fair. Yeah, I generally thought it was going to be one of the weakest films in that film list, but, it's still early days, but so far I've been very nicely surprised by it. So I guess the question is, out of 10, what would you rate The Cable Guy?
I mean, I can't give it that. It's obviously a film that lights the world up. The reason it's in this list is because of a bad reason we've seen.
Yeah.
But, on the whole, it's an enjoyable film. You can watch it, and if you do look into it with a very in-depth scope, you can probably appreciate some of the elements. So I've got to say, I'd give it a 6.
A 6. That is fair. That I would say 6.2 for the exact same reason. And again, I just feel that if it wanted to improve itself to then be considered an 8 or even higher, I feel that there should have been more exploration on Jim Carrey's character, as opposed to, the TV is bad for you kind of stereotype. So yeah, it's a 6. It's the first 6 on the list, but a 6 isn't a bad thing, to be honest. That's I think anything from a 6 or above it deserves attention, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's not setting the world alight, but it is a steady piece of cinema. It's
a very good directorial debut for someone, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see how by doing this, he was then given the keys to then do Zoolander, which of course is a totally different style and different kettle of fish.
Yeah, but great in its own right as well.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely great in its own right. So I suppose the next part that we wanted to do as a kind of quick little segment I wanted to try is 2 Truths and a Lie.
Right.
So, anyone listening might want to play along as well. So I need you to think of 3 films and I've got to assume you like 2 of them and you don't like 1 of them.
Right.
So you can tell me 3 films, and I'm gonna have to figure out which film's a lie. Which one is it that you don't like?
I think I'm gonna make this hard on you.
Okay, go on then.
Right. I'm gonna say Face Off.
Right.
Nicolas Cage and John Travolta.
Right. Okay.
Classic. Cop steals bad guy's face. Cop steals bad guy's face for then bad guy to have his face. Steal his face.
Yeah.
Back. Mm-hmm. Very weird concept, but that. I'm gonna go The Expendables, number 1.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go with the remake of the Fantastic Four.
I'm gonna say the remake of the Fantastic Four.
Yes.
Yeah.
That trash.
Only
film.
because the
Piece of trash
first 2,
film.
in the first 2, was so clearly an Aaron film. It was so clearly, a big cinema.
So I didn't make it that easy for you.
I suppose so, but you did make a stutter there, because I thought, well, I haven't seen the new Fantastic Four, but I did see it was planned.
Yeah.
But would Aaron like it? Who knows? Right.
I thought that would be the...
That's fair enough. Okay, so here's my 3.
Right.
Mr. Deeds.
Okay.
Okay, by Adam Sandler. Let's see. Then I would go to pick Braveheart. And then I would pick Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales.
I mean... I hope it's not 2 of them.
What 2 do you hope it's not?
Well, I'm hoping you like Braveheart, because what a film that is. What was your first choice?
Mr. Deeds.
Mr. Deeds, yes. Who doesn't like Mr. Deeds? That's like one of the best Adam Sandlers. Sneaky, sir. Well, I'm going to say Pirates of the Caribbean, because that's what I want.
Yeah, no, you're right. I kind of made that one quite easy, but we'll get better at this for sure. So I guess the final part of the segment now is
the new next film review out of your 3 choices.
About my 3 choices, eh? I'm enjoying this. How are you feeling now? Because we've obviously both seen the list numerous times, but I'm still finding films I didn't notice.
You're not wrong, because some of them are they're just a little text.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when I've been flicking through... But
so my first one...
I'm waiting for a film because there's a lot of films on there that are pretty out there.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling like it's getting close that we're going to watch something like that.
Okay, well this might serve your taste buds. My first film choice is Citizen Kane. And I'm sure the audience can already figure out I've not seen Citizen Kane. But it's regarded as the best film ever made by many. Have you seen Citizen Kane?
I have once, but very
long time ago.
Yeah, and that's very piqued my interest because I'd quite like to watch it again.
That is fair.
But I haven't just found it. It's not a film, even though I feel it is a good film, it's not a film that you ever yearn to watch.
Yeah, I get that.
Myself wanting to watch it, but...
Yeah, definitely.
Now that you've said it, I kind of do.
Yeah. So, number 2, very different, very out there. An American Werewolf in London.
Oh, yes! Oh, no!
And finally, is my final choice, decided to throw something a little bit different in there, and it's an animated film. Akira. It is regarded as one of the best Japanese animes. It apparently revolutionised quite a lot in the way that at least the Western world watches stuff.
Ah.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I'm not...
Well, you don't watch a lot of anime, do you?
I don't actually. It's a genre I very rarely... I know what I want to pick.
Citizen Kane.
As soon as I heard it, I wanted it.
Or American Werewolf in London.
That's what I want.
American Werewolf in London?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as I heard it, I was like, yes. Yes, please.
Is it a good film? without saying anything, because I've not seen it yet, is it a good film?
I enjoy it. I don't think
That's a very good Right, okay. American Werewolf in London.
Next podcast.
We are, yeah. So, guys, tune in tomorrow and you'll find out what I think of an American Werewolf in London.
As always, any comments or suggestions, just
absolutely, yeah. Is there any films that we've mentioned that you want us to listen to? Have you watched Cable Guy? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you rate it? You're the best. And this has been Hi Lazaretto.
I'm the gentleman.
And Papa Smoke.
See y'all next time.
I don't know.
Alright. These go to 11.
I'll be back.